Okay, this video is the second video on solving radical equations. So in the first video we did ones like number 1, where you'd have to subtract 3 from both sides and then square it to get the radical by itself. So we're going to skip that for right now, but let's look and see what happens on number 2. On number 2, it's normally we've had the square root, but this one is the cube root. So to be able to solve or undo a cube root, you have to cube both sides. So I'm going to take both sides and cube it. On the left, I just get x minus 1. On the right, 2 cubed is 8. Then to finish solving, I'll add 1, and I get x is 9. All right, now let's go to ones where you're going to have to factor. So on number 3, to solve this is just like what we did in the last notes. We're going to have to square both sides. So on the left, we get 7x plus 8, and on the right, we have x squared. When we see this x squared, we need to think of a couple of things. First, we know it's quadratic. Second, to be able to solve it, we have to set it equal to 0 and factor. And third, it's possible we could get an extraneous solution. So we are going to need to check our answers. Okay, when we solve it for 0, we need to keep the x squared positive. So to do that, I'm going to have to subtract 7x from both sides and subtract 8 from both sides. That gives me 0 equals x squared minus 7x minus 8. Okay, we can factor that because the two numbers that multiply to negative 8 and add to negative 7 would be negative 8 and positive 1. So we solve x equals 8 and negative 1. Okay, but we don't know they both work yet because we factored. We know that we're going to have to check our answers. So let's try checking one of them. So first we'll start with x equaling 8. So I'm going to plug in an 8 for each x. So 7 times 8 is 56. So I have 56 plus 8 equals, over here is x, so equals 8. So this is the square root of 64 equals 8. That is good. This one works. If I try x equals negative 1, 7 times negative 1 is negative 7 plus 8. Over here I get negative 1, so I get 1 equals negative 1. Remember, when we're doing these, we're looking for the principal root, which is always positive, so this does not work. So negative 1 is not a solution. If you remember from the first video, I said, though, it's not always going to be the negative one that is wrong, and it's not always going to be one wrong and one right. Sometimes they both could be good, sometimes they both could be bad. All right, let's try number 3. Number 3 is going to be a little bit different than what there's 2 3s. Okay, let's try this one. It's going to be a little bit different than the one we just did previously. All right, I don't need to square the problem number. That's no good. On the left, when I square it, it's easy. I just get 3x minus 2. On the right, I'm squaring a binomial, and we practiced this at the end of our video last time. So this would be x minus 4 times x minus 4. So on the left, we just still have 3x minus 2, but on the right, we're going to have to FOIL or distribute or factor, whatever you want to say. So we have x squared minus 4x plus 16. Before you do anything, combine those like terms. So I have 3x minus 2 equals x squared minus 8x plus 16. Now, when we see this x squared, we think it's quadratic, which means I have to set it equal to 0 to factor, which means I could have an extraneous solution, so I'm going to have to check my work. To set it equal to 0, I want the x squared positive, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides and add 2. And that leaves me with 0 equals x squared minus 11x plus 18. Now I can factor the two numbers that multiply to positive 18 and add to negative 11 would be negative 9 and negative 2. So when I solve, I get 9 and 2. Now neither one of these is negative, so we're going to find out what's going to happen here. All right, let's try the check. So on the check, first, I'm going to try x equals 9. I'm going to plug in a 9 for each x. So 3 times 9 is 27 minus 2. And over here, I've got 9 minus 4. Well, that'd be the square root of 25, and this would be 5. Those work. This one's good. Let's see what happens when we plug in 2. Over here, I have 3 times 2, which is 6. So I have 6 minus 2. And here I have 2 minus 4. So I have the square root of 4 equals negative 2. Oh, that is not good. My radical, whoops, I wrote the wrong face. My radical cannot equal a negative. So this one doesn't work. That's our extraneous solution. X equals 9 is the only one. All right, let's try that again so we can practice all the different things. So on number 5, I've got the radical by itself, so I'm going to square both sides. And when I do that, on the left, I get x plus 2 times x plus 2. On the right, the radical cancels, and I just get x plus 2. So over here, distribute or FOIL, x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4. On the right, x plus 2. Any equation you ever get, don't do anything until you've combined like terms. So I've got x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals x plus 2. Okay, when I see that x squared, I think this is quadratic. I've got to set it equal to 0 and factor it, and I'm going to have to check my answers. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides and subtract 2. That leaves me with x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. So how is this going to factor? Well, the two numbers that multiply to 2 and add to 3 would be 2 and 1. So I get x equals negative 2 and negative 1. Oh, now I've got two negative answers. Let's see how this checks out. Remember, just because it's negative doesn't mean it doesn't work. So on the left, or excuse me, if I plug in x equals negative 2, on the left I get negative 2 plus 2, and then over here I get negative 2 plus 2. So I get 0 equals the square root of 0. That's true. That one works. Okay, let's try this again on negative 1. So I get negative 1 plus 2 equals the square root of negative 1 plus 2. So I get 1 equals 1. That is good too. So this time, both answers work. All right, let's try one more of these just to make sure we're doing okay. On number 6, got a lot of 6's here. Square both sides. So this is going to give me x plus 6, and this just gives me x plus 6. So now I need to distribute. So I get x squared plus 6x plus 6x plus 36. Over here, x plus 6. Combine like terms. On the right, I get x plus 6. Okay, again, so when I see the x squared, I know it's quadratic. I know I need to set it equal to 0 and factor, and I know I'm going to have to check my answers. So on this one, to solve, I'm going to subtract x and subtract 6. So that gives me x squared plus 11x plus 30 equals 0. So this is going to be x plus 6, x plus 5. So when I solve, x equals negative 6 and negative 5. And as we saw in the last one, just because they're negative doesn't mean it's a bad solution. So let's check our answers. So when I plug them in here, I'm going to have negative 6 plus 6 equals negative 6 plus 6 under the radical. So 0 equals radical, or 0 equals the square root of 0. We're all good. If I check negative 5, you can probably see what's going to happen. I get 1 equals the square root of 1. That is also good. Both answers work. Now, I kept saying that these have an x squared, and so we know they're quadratic. You got to factor, you got to check. Now, just as a reminder or comparison, look at the notes we did in the first video. Over here, this answer did not have an x squared. I didn't set it equal to 0, and I did not have to check my answer. Same thing with these. No x squared, so I did not set it equal to 0, I did not factor, and I did not need to check my answer. So that's the difference between the two. And that is the end of part 2.